Hey folks, so there's been a lot of coverage lately for a particular YouTuber who's done some things to get attention, and it has unfortunately worked gloriously for this person. And today's message is more so just about this sort of pattern of things. It's not about this individual, it's not about the specific case, but it is, of course, related to it. And the same thing actually happens. And if you'll pardon me for this, will be some slightly dark but very real things for a moment. A lot of what happens too in the sphere of when there are acts of domestic terrorism, which can include people who shoot in public spaces, which can include people who set off bombs or otherwise, is they're doing something they shouldn't be doing to try to get attention or to try to get fame or to try to get their faces plastered places, try to get people talking about their name, try to make themselves known. And while it's not necessarily of the same caliber when someone does something which is, let's be fair, awful, but on YouTube, and they're doing that to get attention and fame and so on, or in another sphere where the same thing happens. Occasionally we'll see some sort of pop artist do something in a public space, maybe as part of a performance or just as part of something else, that everyone kind of disdains and is sick of and is disgusted by and says, oh, I can't believe artist's name did that. And then they're writing articles about it and they're sharing articles about it and the outrage is fueling. You got to remember, if you say or feature or retweet or repost or reshare things that have their name and their face plastered all over it, they're winning. That's really what they want out of it. All they want is that attention. To them, there is no losing scenario. They believe that there's no bad publicity. That if you hate them, your disapproval of them, of that person, of that character, only actually drives up their approval with people who disagree with you. Politically, personally, socially, lifestyle, or otherwise. And so I know it can be hard because, again, like they rile us up to get under our skin. That's what they're trying to do. But today's just a plea that when these things come up, and again, sometimes they're more serious than others, and there's a range and radius of different ways that they're wrong and objectionable and problematic. And all today's is a plea that when these things come up, to consider that before resharing a thing, does it have their face plastered all over it? Does it have their name in there? And if it does, maybe find some other way to vent about it. Maybe in the abstract, like I'm doing, of at least referring to it as a general case as opposed to the particulars. Something that's going to avoid drawing further fame, interest, or publicity to the person, to what they did, to their act, to the thing that we want to discourage. Because unfortunately what winds up happening is when people write about these things and they talk about these things and they go about the particulars of the person and the people, they're writing that news piece for wave, they're writing that wave of news for attention themselves. It rewards it, and what it does is it sets us up for more future incidents. It creates a social space, a news space, a media spreading sort of virality just environment in which those kind of things are rewarded. And what it does is it creates copycats because it increases the likelihood and the proof and the evidence that doing those things gets people notoriety, gets them to the top of link aggregators, gets them discussed. And all of a sudden, a lot of people who never knew that name before know that name. And a lot of people who never thought about that particular person before are now thinking about that person. And they know their face, and now they're curious to find out more about them. They're looking at pictures about them, they're reading about backstory, all this just stuff that doesn't need to happen. Don't reward those people with fame. I know it can seem sometimes like any given one of us doesn't have a humongous network necessarily, so what's the damage? But it's these things scale. Like these sites, those views are the votes, because that's their advertising money. The shares are the reward and the attention that people look for when they write about these people, talk about these people, show videos of people, etc. That's all it is today, just to ask that if their names or faces are in it, maybe just reconsider it. And in a way, look at a way of how little attention, energy, and thought can you give that person. Because the real penalty to them is to forget them and not let them be a part of your life, not let them be a part of your attention, because that's what they're after. That's it for today. Hopefully not a negative message. Hopefully one that can help us refocus our energies, our efforts on our creative endeavors, our business endeavors, our personal growth, our objectives, our goals, not getting caught up in some other mess out there happening. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have another video for y'all tomorrow.